Welcome to Star Trek Theory, where we look at ideas, theories, and speculation on all things Star Trek. Viacom CBS just announced the brand new Star Trek series featuring the adventures of Captain Pike and Spock in strange new worlds. It's really awesome news, and it looks set to be a real return to that optimistic future of classic Trek. The series is going to be continuing on from Discovery Season 2, and it looks like it's going to be a lot more about exploration this time, with the series being more episodic.
Hit it.
Hopefully it's going to be a return to form, and to the older tone and style of storytelling akin to the original series in the Kirk era. It would definitely be great if the story could tie into the start of the original series, setting up both Kirk and Spock. But something else that I personally also want to see is them tying it up thematically with the original series and the retro look and feel. And that's where we're going to be looking at this episode and ask the question, what if there's an event that could explain that retro look of the original series? So if we go back to the very first prequel series Enterprise, then that's the oldest technology in the timeline of the Star Trek universe. And really, if we're honest, then Discovery and the J.J. Abrams movies are actually pretty good natural evolutions and continuation of that technology 100 years later. It's pretty much what we might expect from 100 years of progress might produce. So really, looking at this timeline, the Kirk era is the one that seems the odd man out. There's a decent progression from Enterprise on through Discovery, and suddenly the technology drops. And then, by the time of the movies, it's back up again. So what causes this retro look of the original series? And rather than say it's just different productions and different production techniques, let's see if we can find an in-universe explanation. Because we saw during Enterprise the same retro look when the USS Defiant went back in time and crossed universes, and Archer encountered that ship from the future and it looked just the same. So it's been established in canon that period, the 2260s, did look like that. Even in Deep Space Nine, the crew went back in time to that same era and had the same retro look.
I love classic 23rd century design. Black finish, silver highlights.
Thanks.
So how do we explain that discrepancy between the established period look of the 2260s and Discovery's more advanced look in the 2250s, which takes place before the Kirk era but is more advanced? And the answer could come from a combination of Control in Discovery and the Zhat Vash from Picard. So Control was the artificial intelligence that took over the Starfleet computers and essentially went rogue with Section 31. We'd previously hypothesized that maybe Control had a connection to the Borg AI and had been moving very slowly, taking over all of Starfleet's computers bit by bit. But when Discovery encountered the sphere data, Control suddenly started to move much more forcibly and even acted right out in the open with its intent on getting that sphere data.
Why would Control want AI data?
A strategic advantage, perhaps?
So the cat was out of the bag, and everyone knew about Control taking over whole starships just for that goal. At the end of Discovery Season 2, not only did this AI have control of all those ships, but Discovery took that sphere data to the future, hoping that it would be out of reach of Control. But Control still exists in the 2250s. Even if it had been purged from those starships, remnants would still exist on computers across the Federation.
We're fighting the system itself.
As a piece of code, it would almost be impossible to get rid of it totally.
Have you eliminated Control? Entirely?
We have.
So enter the Zhat Vash, who, as we saw in Picard, have existed for thousands of years and whose goal was to rid the galaxy of all artificial intelligence.
Have you never noticed the complete absence of any form of artificial life in Romulan culture? We don't have androids or AIs, we don't study cybernetics.
All this is about the Zhat Vash hatred of androids.
It's not simply hate. It's hate and fear and pure loathing for any form of synthetic life.
They definitely existed during this period. So when Control started acting right out in the open, they definitely would have taken notice, and they no doubt had many spies inside the Federation who'd want to destroy every single last remnant of it. But how can you destroy a program that could exist on multiple computers, and could even transfer to other species' ships? For all they know, it could have transferred to Andorians or Klingon ships, or any other ships.
Even more radical steps must be taken to ensure that type of scenario never repeats itself. I'm eager to hear your recommendations, Lieutenant.
So there'd literally be only one way to do that. A total and galaxy-wide shutdown of all computers on a scale unheard of. The goal would be to attack every single computer across every species at the same time and eliminate control. They definitely had the resources and the intent to do this.
For hundreds of years since, we have worked in shadow. It is this dreaded work that you must now carry on.
And maybe it took the form of a computer virus that shut down computers everywhere to make sure that there's nowhere for control to survive. It could have affected all ships, stations, and computers across the entire quadrant. And in the process of that, maybe they destroyed decades of technology, which forces them to go back to older computers. And that could start to explain why they have a retro look in the original series, not just Federation, but all species across the galaxy. This would have been a major event in Star Trek history, one which set back all of the technologies of each of the races. And why visually, in the Kirk's era, they look less advanced, even though it's the future.
I remember this time. I lived in this time, and it's hard to not want to be a part of it again.
In the years following this event, they would slowly get back a lot of that tech that they lost, which is why by the time of the Kirk era movies in the 2270s, they had to retrofit the Enterprise again since the technology had already advanced back quite substantially. This theory would actually explain that need for the retrofit in the motion picture, because that whole period of the 2260s became this retro era in history as a result of this Zhat Vash secret need to destroy control and unleash a virus. It would have been a step back in technology just for a short period of time, and slowly that technology would be reintroduced because it had already existed in the past. By the time of Deep Space Nine, even the holographic communication, which was quite common during Discovery, is just now starting to become used again.
You appear to be sitting on my bridge.
And maybe this event could be something which could happen during the Pike series. Personally, I'd love it if something like this were to happen, if they could tie into the original series. As a fan, I hate that previously established eras of canon are just discarded for an updated look just because we can do it better now. Those Trek time periods should be treated like period movies, and so when we visit those older eras, they should have the same look and feel. It's already been established, and we shouldn't change it and update it just because we can. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Does it make sense to you? Could it be a way to have the new Pike show become a real bridge to the classic series story-wise, visually, and thematically? They could really do something special and tie not only the Discovery but Pike to the rest of the series. And if you haven't already, definitely subscribe now for more ideas, theories, and speculation on all things Star Trek. And as always, thanks for watching, and Trek on.